Opinions and statements expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WWDB, its staff, or management.
You are listening to In the Know with David O. Informative, substantive, intelligent talk radio on 860 AM WWDB. And now, your host, Philadelphia Councilman David O.
Good afternoon. This is David O. It's my pleasure to be with you again on another Tuesday afternoon from 2 to 3. And we have some great guests for you. I hope you know that. If you don't, I'm going to start with Ryan Peters. He's a special kind of guy. He's an attorney. He's a father. And he's a freeholder in New Jersey. And one more thing, he's a Navy SEAL. So what a fascinating person, a life really of not only serving our nation and our communities, but also defending freedom. So that'll be my first guest, but stay tuned also because we're going to hear from Carvin Haggins. You may not know his name, but you've heard his music, 80 million records sold. He's a two-time Grammy Award winner, really well-known, well-respected in the music industry. He's a producer, songwriter. Carvin Haggins will be joining us by phone. He's actually out of town today. And then our question of the week. You know, every week we ask you if you have a question, and I'll try to answer it, not by saying things myself, but by bringing on the experts to answer the questions. Bernie Resnick actually just walked into the studio. Yes, he said hello world, but I don't know if you heard that. But anyway, you know, he is just a really accomplished and respected entertainment attorney. You know, he represents producers, musicians, athletes, organizations, and you'll be impressed with the list of people that he represents. But he's really here to answer a question, and that is, how do you protect your music? Okay, legally you need to protect it, right?
Absolutely.
But beyond that, there's other things that you may want to do, and he's going to tell you all about that when we get to him. If you are taking notes, please join us next week on Tuesday, December the 13th, when I'm going to have Buddy Osborne, the founder of Rock Ministry. He has an incredible story, a fantastic person, but he basically opened a boxing gym in Kensington in one of the most troubled neighborhoods, and he has some really angry kids walk in. And, well, Rock Ministries, it's not really a boxing gym, it's really a ministry, and he has been very effective in reaching kids that otherwise are just so hard to reach. You know, he was a Golden Gloves boxer, and he ended up in jail. And after he got out of jail, he turned his life around and is a very devoutly religious gentleman and just highly respected. Christine Cox, co-founder of Ballet X, they're doing fantastic. They're written up, just innovative dance, and again, so important for our economy, the creative economy, and she'll be on next week. And then Commissioner Adam Thiel, he's our Philadelphia Fire Commissioner. And you know, we had Deputy Commissioner Christine Coulter on about hiring in the police department. Well, they're also hiring in the fire department, so firefighters and paramedics. And so the commissioner himself will be here. So please join us next Tuesday. But right now, you know, let me tell you about Ryan Peters. Ryan, first of all, you know, what could I describe? Apple pie, boy next door, couldn't hurt a fly. That's him sitting over there. Good-natured, humble person. Yeah, a little bit of a hot shot, or he wouldn't be a Navy SEAL, right? But listen, well, you know, I mean, he's got the stuff to back it up. He was a Division I soccer player. Not just that, captain of the team, graduate of Annapolis, our Naval Academy. As I said, a Navy SEAL. He graduated cum laude from Rutgers University School of Law, where he was editor-in-chief of the Rutgers Journal of Law and Religion, president of the Student Bar Association, and a legislative fellow at the Eagleton Institute of Politics. As I said, he graduated from the United States Naval Academy, and he is admitted to practice law in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and the District of Columbia. So with that, let me welcome Ryan Peters.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me on. My pleasure to be here.
Okay. Well, listen, it's great having you. Let's start with this. I mean, you're kind of like the boy next door, in all truth. I'm not even kidding. He's a handsome guy. You know, if you if you came across him in the street or something, you wouldn't think 2 cents about him. But what's underneath that? Let's start with this. There you are in high school in New Jersey. And, you weren't exactly the guy who followed all the rules, I suppose, from what I'm reading. What happened?
And I think I was going to interrupt you before when you said kind of apple pie and boy next door. I think a lot of my high school classmates and teachers would, sort of raise their eyebrows at that description. Middle child, 3 boys. My mom stayed home and raised us. My father was in the trucking business, and we really heavily focused on sports and competition, which sort of made my family go around. And just middle child syndrome. I think rules were guidelines for me, and sometimes I took a little too far, but I think I got wide latitude only because it was never malicious. It was always sort of pranks or testing the boundaries. I had a passion for sports and particularly soccer. And played on a pretty good club team, as they call it. And we were at a tournament, a lot of college recruiters there. And the coach of the Naval Academy come up to me. And he said, I'd like you to play for me. And if I'm being completely honest, I had no idea what the Naval Academy was. And so I started doing research and talking. And one of the big things was some of the teachers who knew I was good at soccer said, who's recruiting you? I'd sort of name off a couple schools, and after a while I would throw in the Naval Academy at the end.
Right.
And their eyes would sort of go up, and, they'd sort of look at me like, you? With all the rules and the military? I don't think you'd make it there. And so that sort of piqued my interest.
It's interesting because, well, you were, from what I'm reading, a jock in high school, and then a young lady kind of challenged you a little bit about your academics, right? The English honors program, was it something like that? What was going on there? Yeah,
so again, my family was heavily sports and competition focused. Certainly grades. You couldn't come home with bad grades, but it wasn't as if, that was a big focus in the family. It was more of, how you performed in the sports field. And, more competition driven. I just said, okay, I want to try to do this, try to do that. And I ended up, I think in an honors English class. And, there was a girl who sits next to me, and I can still sit there, and she kind of gave me a look and, just said, what are you doing in this class? This is the honors class. I said, yeah. She goes, well, you're one of the jocks. This isn't for you. Kind of, and I looked around and I didn't see anybody on my sports teams in this class, and, just thought, oh, okay. And as anybody will tell you, if you want me to do something, tell me I can't do it. And she basically just challenged me, and I said, okay, I'll meet that challenge, and sort of progress from there, which I think made me more eligible for the academy as the right. Academics by spite than more so by the challenge. But yeah, I'm sort of grateful that she challenged me in that regard. I don't think it was intentional on her behalf, but I thank her nonetheless.
So you must kind of been a little bit of a fish out of water at Annapolis, huh?
To say the least. I think I didn't quite know. I knew what I was getting into. I didn't quite know. My first experience, I walk in and, someone gets in my face and they say, the first and last words out of your mouth will be, sir, do you understand? And I just said, yeah. And, first and last words out of my mouth will be, sir, do you understand? I said, yeah. Like, what don't you understand? I get it. And after he screamed again a couple more times, I sort of picked up on it, and I said, "Oh, I'm not in Kansas anymore."
Right.
And so sort of the Jersey attitude got me in trouble for about a week and a half until I just said, you know what, it might be better to sort of go along to get along at this point than try to challenge literally everybody who I come in contact with. And I think that's part of the reason of my growth from the rabble rouser in high school to sort of becoming things later in life and realizing. it's the Jersey attitude will only get you so far.
Right. Now the Naval Academy is just a fantastic school. It's very, very competitive, and basically it's also it's a free education in a sense because you don't have to pay tuition, so it's extremely competitive, and you have many, many choices. How did you end up making the choice to join the Navy SEALs?
Yeah, so Naval Academy for me was a great place to be from. I wouldn't say I enjoyed any minute of those 4 years, but certainly the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, they say it's a $300,000 education shoved down your throat 1 penny at a time, and that was certainly the case for me. So, challenging in every single regard. I had gone to a summer program after my freshman year, where we went to and we learned to dive, scuba diving, where you run around, they hold you underwater, you're screaming, yelling. I said, man, I want to be a diver. And this guy says to me, no, you want to be a SEAL. Now this was back before we made movies and books every 20 minutes,
right? And
so I didn't know what it was. And so I come back from this summer trip, and the fall starts, and I'm in physics class. And a senior military officer comes in and whispers in my professor's ear, and he says, okay, everybody go back to your room. So as we're walking back, people are talking and saying, yeah, this prop engine hit the Pentagon. We got to go back, So I get to my room, and we turn on, we only had one channel sort of on our computers, and that's when I saw the plane hit. And I just did the mature thing, and I turned around and I punched the wall. And then I just said, sort of to myself, I want to be on the front lines when we go to war, and I want to be there. I want to see these guys face to face. And a little bit more research into what my buddy had said about the SEALs told me that if I competed and made it into the program, I would come face to face with the people I was looking for. And so there's probably by the end about 300 people who wanted to be a SEAL in my year, and they take 17. So there's a lot of, academics, honor, making sure no conduct, certainly captain the sports team helped me out, and just, they had to pick somebody. So I was lucky to be one of the 17, and it just able to get me there.
Can I ask a question about about the SEALs? So I've heard that the training to become a SEAL is unbelievably rigorous, and that even those who are lucky enough to be accepted into the program to attempt the training, many of those wash out and don't make it. Can you tell us anything about what it was like physically, not just mentally, but physically, to go through that training program? Because I understand it's just brutal.
Yeah. So I was in class 252. We had 280 people start, and 9 months later, 18 people finished. So about a 98% attrition rate. So generally, if you start, you're not going to finish is the general rule. So yeah, I mean, certainly, definitely physically demanding. And there's countless examples of, Hell Week, where you just don't sleep for a week and they run you around and you're constantly doing physical activity and mental challenges. But I would say it's more of a mental, test than anything else. I mean, certainly there were people that were faster runners, better swimmers, more agile than I, and, they quit. So, what distinguishes, and I think it's just a matter of, being challenged. I mean, I say all the time, I was a soccer player. Maybe things are changed now, but in high school, that wasn't the cool kid. The cool kids were the football players. So at football parties, I was thrown into dumpsters, and that sort of, gives you a certain humility and a certain fight. And so if you hadn't been picked on, or you never challenged mentally, or, the minute you were put in a position where you can't win and it's only going to be miserable and it's not going to end and no one can hear you scream, people tend to run for the door, and that's not in the SEAL teams. That's not what we're looking for. So this helps us weed it out.
And would you say that once you make it into be a SEAL, that you would rely on your teammates or your, I don't know what the platoon is called or what the
it's platoon. Yeah.
Would you rely on your platoon mates as you would a teammate in a sports game, and you're just everything for the team, and no matter what it takes, you'll all do it for each other?
Yeah, I mean, so SEAL teams, we call ourselves team guys. Nobody really calls himself a SEAL. They call themselves, I'm a team guy, if they were to self-identify. And yeah, a team, it's like a sports team, but you die for the guy. And you're actually going in, if you clear a room, you pick a corner and the guy picks the other corner. If he's slow, you're getting shot in the back. So every single time you enter a room, entrust your life in your teammates' hands. So yeah, it's a different sort of brotherhood than, anybody else can see in the civilian world.
Okay, and I'm going to pick up on that because, there you are, going through this rigorous training, which is just very demanding of you in every way. And let's fast forward. You've done 3 tours, combat tours in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. My first platoon, I went to Iraq, came home, went to Afghanistan, came home, went to Iraq. Along the way, I got married, had a daughter, and just, it's as an officer in the SEAL teams, the higher you go in rank, the farther you get away from the gun. If I wanted to do it and be there, not so much get behind the desk and do the administrative work and the time and, the pain that goes on your family and friends and everybody, I sort of wanted to lessen that. And so I got out and joined the reserves and, had to look around because there's not a whole lot of civilian equivalence jobs for, being a SEAL. And so for me, I thought my best bet was going to law school. So I applied, was accepted. I left Iraq in March of 2009 and started law school in May of 2009. So quick transition. And certainly an interesting one.
So from the battlefield to the courtroom and all that.
To the classroom.
Yes.
It was definitely an interesting transition.
Now, when you left active duty as I think a lieutenant, commanding a SEAL team, you went into law school, you went the civilian route, but not really because you joined a reserve a naval unit, but it was a reserve SEAL team, SEAL unit, right?
Yeah, so I stayed mostly because I really missed the guys, and so I stayed in to do the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, scratch the itch, kind of be around the guys. And so I graduated law school. I went to my law firm. It's in Philadelphia called Pepper Hamilton. I was there for about 6 or 7 months. And then the SEAL teams called and said, hey, we're going to put you back on active duty. Supposedly for a year. I ended up spending 14 months on active duty, deploying down to Central America, doing what's called CNT missions, which is counter narcotics and terrorism, mostly through that area. And law firm was incredibly supportive. And had a job there waiting for me when I came back, which is unique, and I'll be, forever grateful. At that time, I had 3 children. My youngest was 2 months old when I left, and they made sure they'd take care of my family. Because it was a different one in the sense that I'd been back. I live in New Jersey,
right?
And so my wife didn't have the support she does when you're in active duty and deploy around other deployed wives. So the firm really picked up a lot of slack and really took care of me and the family.
Oh, that's really good to hear. So I remember when you left because I think we had just met.
I think so. Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, you're leaving. And I said, stay safe. Next thing I know, it's like 14 months go by quickly, at least when you're here in Philadelphia. Maybe not so much for you where you were.
Yeah.
And listen, there's a lot of things he cannot talk about. There's things he can talk about, but there's a bunch of things he cannot talk about. I'm looking over. Do we have to take a commercial break? No? We're good? We're okay? Okay.
Yeah, you can take your time if you want.
Okay, so we're good to keep going. So let me then kind of go a little bit into your legal practice because what you do now when you're not lieutenant commander of a SEAL team, SEAL Reserve, never knowing when you're going to be called up. You are a practicing attorney.
Correct.
And what is your area of focus? And by the way, there's 3 attorneys sitting in here. I'm an attorney for an attorney. Bernie Resnick is an attorney.
Sorry, but that's probably 1 too many, or 3 too many.
Yeah.
So my practice, like I said, I'm at Pepper Hamilton at 18th and Arch in Philadelphia, and I split my time. We have an office in Princeton, and I head up there every once in a while. And heavily commercial litigation, and I think for those litigators, when you're defending a lot of things in court, you file a motion and then there's some time for them to answer. And so I'll fill in the blanks with some white collar work. There's some money laundering compliance that we'll do with banks, and just make sure they need an audit. So the law firm comes in, we'll do internal investigations for fraud and such. So that's when I went and got my CFE, my Certified Fraud Examiner certificate, and a certified and anti-money laundering specialist to sort of fill in the blanks and help out with the litigation aspect. So when there's a billable hour requirement at the law firm, and so there's an incentive and a requirement to stay busy. So being diversified helps me do that. And litigation, just I'm a fighter. That's kind of what I was brought up as, and I like when there's winners and losers, which I find in litigation. And the clients appreciate the fact that you're willing to fight hard and you care about it and you want to win, and it's exciting when you do.
Well, if anybody's looking for an attorney, and what are the rates at Pepper Hamilton? What's the rates right now? Just so people know.
You have to call and
start with unaffordable, and they go up from there. Right?
Yeah. So, look, it's not for everybody, but Pepper Hamilton, I'm going to figure, is north of $400 an hour, maybe around $600, something like that.
I would think it's somewhere between $300 and $400 an hour.
Right,
yeah,
$300 and $400 an hour. Okay, so what happens is, yes, but listen, when you need an attorney, you need an attorney, and when you need a good attorney, don't just settle for less than that.
Money well spent.
Yeah, it is money well spent. And so if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
So, two ways. Certainly if you're in Burlington County, New Jersey, you can go to my Freeholder page, Ryan Peters, Ryan Peters, or the same Google search. If you type in Ryan Peters, Pepper Hamilton, my office number and email will come up. So email, phone, easily accessible, talk to anybody.
Okay, and so if you are looking for an attorney, Pepper Hamilton, LLP, Ryan Peters, Peters, R, P-E-T-E-R-S-R, at pepperlaw.com. Good way to get in touch with Ryan Peters. Now, for those of you not in New Jersey, you may not know what a freeholder is, and that's yet one more thing that we're going to talk about. Because after serving in the military and becoming an attorney, well, another thing happened to Ryan, and that is he became an elected official. And so for those who are in New Jersey, you know what he is. He's a Burlington County freeholder. But for those of us who are not from New Jersey, can you tell us exactly what it is to be a freeholder?
Sure. And this is I get this question a lot, most because New Jersey is the only state with freeholders. So when I'm in Philadelphia and someone says, "What's that?" So you live in Pennsylvania? I say, yes. It's okay. Do you know what your county commissioner is? Yes. Well, I'm a county commissioner, essentially equivalent. So we just have a different name in New Jersey. In Burlington County, we have a board of 5. Burlington County is the biggest county in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And, we have the Rowan College of Burlington County, libraries, roads, bridges, the Burlington, Bristol, tons of resources. And we also have the highest veteran population in the state of New Jersey, in my county. And, I guess that was one of the more proud and distinguishing moments that somehow through some bizarre series of circumstances, they hadn't had a freeholder who was a veteran on the board, and we went back, I think, 35 years and couldn't find anybody. So I'm proud to be the liaison to the Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, and veterans in our area who need help and want an ear that they can understand.
Right.
I try to fill in that gap for them as well. So.
Well, the service continues from serving your nation, which you still do, and serving your community, to also serving those who serve.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of folks, politicians are a dirty word, and especially veterans, when they look at it and say, public service is certainly in your blood, but they look at it and go, politician, that means that's dirty, and that means self-promotion. And so, I go out and I try to talk to a lot of folks and educate them on, there's a certain aspect of self-promotion because you have to tell people who you are.
Yes.
But once you get past that, there's a lot you can do in effect and do change. And veterans, I feel, and I'm biased, are uniquely qualified in that respect because, they've had leadership experience. They have a moral compass. They've managed things. There's times, when your soldier comes to you and says, my wife, I miss her and I want to go home, and you have to say, no, you stay here and you do your job. So as much as I'd want to send them home and help them out, you say no. So when, we try to fight homelessness and things in my county, and we certainly give a lot of money and do a lot of efforts, but when they come and say, we need more help, it's, well, I can't give you all the money in the budget. Here's as much as I can do, and here's a plan going forward. You could be honest with people and have conversations, because you've had those tough conversations in the past. Whereas, and I think that's where people get frustrated with normal politicians. They say, yeah, we'll help you. And then it never comes because they're not realistic with them. When I say, no, but here's how I can help you going forward, and we can have honest discussions, and you can really help out people. And so, I always encourage veterans to sort of get involved and take an active role in government and public service. Because, people always say, Republican and Democrat. And so on record, I'm a Republican, but generally my answer is American, because, I don't think the people with the red hats have all the answers, and nor do I think the people with the blue hats have all the answers. I think you come together, for a common purpose that is good government. And, it's like I said, when you serve, you have no idea. Gay, straight, Democrat, Republican, Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, we're all together in one common purpose. But somehow when you take the uniform off, you're supposed to look at them differently, and I don't think other veterans do either.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that answer. I mean, I'm not saying because I'm anybody that should approve of answers, but I do find it, I do think very much the same way in the sense that, you have to get elected. I mean, it's important to have good leaders, but you got to get elected. You can't get elected without letting people know who you are and telling them something about yourself and answering questions. And people have questions, and it's tough campaigning because you got to kind of summarize who you are in a minute, 2 minutes, that type of thing. But I remember a story that I heard. And it was about a young veteran, and you might have heard me say this story, and he had run into a World War II veteran, and he said, truly you're the greatest generation of Americans, and the World War II veteran said, you too could be the greatest generation of Americans, but you're not going to be unless you come back home and take that wartime experience and serve our democracy. And I said, wow, that's really a very important perspective. There's so few people who actually serve in the military. And, when I said it's a free education at Annapolis, well, yeah, it's free, but, you only got to pay for it with your life potentially.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not exactly free. And then there's a service and everything. And so you've made some really tough decisions, some heartbreaking experiences and other things. But as Kennedy said, born in the fire. And so, really great leadership for our community.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree. I mean, there used to be a punishment where you'd sit in there and just say, I am an individual. That was a punishment. And now, to run for politics, you have to sort of be an individual and talk about yourself. And so I think if you can get veterans out of that aspect of, to talk about yourself as a punishment, once you get past that, hey, the as bad as that experience may be for you personally, the good outweighs that and what you can do as a public servant. And so, there's never any free rides, but I'm certainly the cost of admission is putting yourself out there, which is hard for some veterans.
Now, I'm going to have to wrap up this interview. Let me just ask you this, with all your different experiences and all the things that you've accomplished, which is also a sign of all the challenges that you've had, what's your goals right now? What are you trying to achieve right now as a freeholder, as an attorney, as a reservist in the Navy? What would you focus on?
I mean, for me, it's a lot of just focusing on the present. I would have never pictured this life for me, 10, 20 years ago. Even the political route was a sort of interesting, nothing I really sought after, and just a sort of odd change of circumstance that happened that I was asked to run. Someone stepped down, they needed somebody, and I was a quick fill-in. So it was no sort of plan. I think now it's just, continuing to do the best. You wake up and do the best job you can every second. And I think that's an appreciation, again, going back to the military is, we went out every single night and, some of my guys didn't come home. A lot of my guys didn't come home. And that reminds you how tenuous life is. So, I don't wake up and think about tomorrow. I wake up and say, okay, how can I be the best Ryan Peters today that I can? And I think that's what my focus is right now, is just overall bettering myself in every way possible.
Well, listen, thank you very much, for all your service and for
Thanks
being
for
on
paying
the
for
show. It. There's that Huber. Well, we're going to take a commercial break right now, and listen, stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to talk to Carvin Haggins, 2-time Grammy Award winner, 80 million records sold, and then we have a question for a super respected and talented entertainment attorney, one of the top in the business, Bernie Resnick.
You are listening to In the Know with David O. Informative, substantive, intelligent talk radio on 860 AM WWDB.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by the Philly Labor RX Injured Workers Pharmacy Network, featuring PPC Pharmacy, First Choice Pharmacy, and Precision Scripts, providing injured workers with premium products and services from the point of injury through the entire healing process. The Philly Labor RX Pharmacy Network cares about injured workers.
Think of all the purchases you need to make this holiday season. Gifts, food, travel, and everything to make the season brighter. Well, we've got a card for that. At American Heritage Federal Credit Union, our Platinum MasterCard gives you buying power, a great low rate, and rewards too. With no annual fee, it's the perfect holiday and everyday credit card. Apply for yours now at cardforthat.com or call 888-553-1234. American Heritage Federal Credit Union. We've got a card for that.
My friends, this is Joe Kraus. You've heard me on Philadelphia radio now for over 20 years, and you know I don't often endorse products or people unless they are real game changers. I want to tell you about Weinerman Pain and Wellness, located in Center City, Philadelphia. And at the end of this short personal endorsement, I want you to consider Weinerman Pain and Wellness. If you are recovering from an injury, if you or a family member has been diagnosed with a disorder that has stopped you in your tracks, or if you're like me, determined to learn about wellness while getting yourself prepared to stay healthy so you can enjoy the blessings of your family. Remember the name of this warm and caring location, Weinerman Pain and Wellness. Why should you consider Weinerman Pain and Wellness? Because they are who you expect them to be. Weinerman Pain and Wellness, on the web at WeinermanPainandWellness.com.
Weinerman Pain and Wellness, located at 100 South Broad Street, just south of City Hall. Call Weinerman Pain and Wellness at 215-988-9503. That's 215-988-9503. Call today.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, we have served our nation as a force in readiness. From combat operations to humanitarian assistance in every corner of the world. No matter where the mission takes us today, or wherever our country needs us tomorrow, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for each other, for our nation, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This holiday season, you probably have your own wish list. A new kitchen, a new home, or a new car for the new year. Well, we've got a loan for that. At American Heritage Federal Credit Union, we have the perfect loan to make your wish list come true. With great low rates and flexible terms designed to fit your budget. Visit loansforthat.com. That's loansforthat.com to get started today. Or call 888-553-1234. American Heritage Federal Credit Union. We've got a loan for that.
Join Philadelphia's top music industry leaders at the 3rd Annual PHL Live Center Stage Awards Show, featuring multi-platinum recording artist Bassie and comedian Keith from Up the Block. It all takes place at the historic Trocadero Theater. Presenters include Gianna Williams, Carvin Haggins, Dice Rock, Ivan Barrios, Mark Raz, Brent Porsche, Michael Tozzi, Tommy Joyner, Brother Marcus, Tiffany Bacon, Jimmy DeSaint, Carol Riddick, Jill Moody, International DJ Casper, David Ivory, and many more. Be there on Thursday, December 8th. Doors open at 7:30 p.m. and show begins at 8. Tickets are just $10. Purchase them online at thetruck.com.
Okay, we're back. This is David O. I'm fortunate to be an elected official here in Philadelphia. It gives me the opportunity to serve the people, and it's really a wonderful thing to be able to do. Tough job, but when you can make a difference, it's rewarding in that sense. Well, next week, please join me as we have a good guy, Buddy Osborne, founder of Rock Ministries. He has a boxing program, and with that boxing program in one of the toughest parts of Philadelphia, he has been very effective in really helping a lot of angry kids make it. If it wasn't for his boxing program, I don't know that they would have made it, but he's made a huge difference there. Christine Cox, co-founder of Ballet X, and Commissioner Adam Thiel, Philadelphia Fire Commissioner. The question is, how do you get a job as a firefighter paramedic? Well, Philadelphia is hiring, and he's going to let you know. But right now, we are very fortunate to be joined by one of the top attorneys in the entertainment industry right here from the Philadelphia area. His name is Bernie Resnick. Well, it's actually Bernard M. Resnick, Esquire, but, his friends call him Bernie. Bernie Resnick is on the Board of Governors of the Philadelphia chapter of the Recording Academy. He's been there from 2011 to 2016. He's co-chair of the chapter's Classical Music Committee, and that's always interesting to me because Bernie is so well known for representing rock musicians and football players and pop artists and all that, but he himself is a musician, and he actually is a classical musician. Some of the folks that he represents, let me just read from this list. I got a lot of people to choose from. Let me just pick out a few. Timbaland, Pink, Dave Mason, PNB Rock, Bun B, UGK, Major Frigus, Freeway, Rough Nation, Warner Brothers Records, Brent Selleck, Eagles tight end, and many others. Bernie, thanks for joining us.
Hey, let me say, Councilman, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very humbled to share the microphone with both a Camden County freeholder, a Burlington County freeholder, a Philadelphia City Councilman, a Navy SEAL who served our country. I'm just little Bernie the attorney, so I'm very humbled to be here.
You are too humble. The reason I wanted to introduce you is not just to make you embarrassed, but because we have a question, and I want to make sure people understand that when you answer this question, this is not an amateur answer. You are a top-notch attorney who's called upon by super successful folks in the entertainment, sports area, and others for your legal expertise.
I've studied the entertainment field, and I've been a part of it for almost 30 years. So hopefully, I know a little bit of experiences over the years to help out whoever asked the question. So fire away.
Fantastic. And so let's start with this question. Question, and what it is that how do I protect my music? And so first, from a copyright point of view, and then all the other things that you could, advise a musician, an artist, a songwriter. So how would you answer that question?
Sure. Well, I'll try to be brief. First of all, copyright, whether it's for a piece of music or a photograph or a script or a television play or whatever you've written or created, that piece of intellectual property, copyright exists not from when you actually file papers, but from when you fix the work. That means render it into a tangible form. In our nation, our laws don't recognize any protection for an idea. we only recognize protection in the physical embodiment of the idea, which means basically you have to write it down or record it somehow, which means exposing the photograph or writing the screenplay or recording the song onto a computer hard drive or a piece of tape or in some way writing it down on music or paper. Once you've done that, that's called fixing the work, and that's when your copyright is born.
Okay.
Copyright then lasts for as long as the author lives plus 70 years. So that means it's a piece of property. It's intellectual property. You can't really hold it in your hand, the melody to a song, but it is property. It does have value. And just like you could with a piece of real estate or with a valuable piece of jewelry that you can pass along in your will to your heirs, you can pass along a copyright to your heirs. And the rights to the income that comes from that copyright will last for 70 years after you pass away. The first thing you need to do to really perfect your ownership right in that piece of property is to file a copyright registration. It's very easy to do. There's this myth, this rumor that if you send something to yourself in the mail, it's called the poor man's copyright, that establishes some sort of ownership value, right? It has no value. Just throw that idea out. It's worthless. What you need to do instead is go to the official Copyright Office website, fill out a very simple form online, upload them $55 from your credit card or your bank account, and then send them an MP3 file of the recording or the piece of the sheet music in a PDF or Word format. That perfects the registration of your copyright. Once you do that, not only do you have it for your life plus 70 years, but also you have certain rights to enforce it. So if people infringe it, you can do something about it. And you simply go to copyright.gov. It's the official government website. Terrific website, by the way, with great frequently asked questions page and line-by-line instructions. You fill out the form, upload the materials, upload the money, and you get an instant receipt in the email, and you are done. If someone wants to hire me to do that, I could take their money to do it, but generally I'd rather teach a man to fish so he can live and eat for the rest of his life than just give him a fish. So I teach people how to do the form themselves the first time. After that, I let them file all the others. So if you go to copyright.gov and you just click on file a copyright registration using their electronic format, it's the best way to go. That's exactly where I would go to do it for you as your attorney. That's what you need to do in order to really protect the work. That's the first thing you can do.
Right.
Following that, I think it's important that you, in order to really protect what you're creating, you need to let the world know that it exists and that you're claiming ownership of it. The way that you do that is you put a copyright notice on any physical version of the work that you hand out to someone. It serves two purposes. The first purpose is that it notifies anyone that you're claiming this is your work. And I'm sure you've all seen it. It's letter C inside of a circle, and then the year the work was created, and then the name of the claimant. So, for example, C in a circle, 2016, Bernie Resnick. Simple to do. But the other thing that's important about labeling your work with that copyright notice, besides the obvious making your claim known to the world, is that you make it possible for those who are executives in the industry like myself to know the source of this great song that they just received on a CD. And I always advise people to put your phone number and your email address on it as well.
Right. Not
just the disc, but also the J card and any materials that accompany it so that I can find you. One time there was a famous Philadelphia songwriter who gave me his music. I really liked it. But there was no identification on it. I couldn't find him for 6 months. But it was a seasonal song about the summer. By the time I finally ran into him again, it was not the right season. I couldn't do anything with it. So it's very important to make it easy for people to find you if they like what they see and hear.
Fantastic.
Okay. Now, further, when you're protecting and promoting your work, you have to let the world know, just like Representative Peters, who was here before, was trying to explain that, doesn't like to talk about himself, but it comes with the territory when you're in politics.
Yes.
The same is true in the entertainment business. The self-promotion is important. It's essential. And every artist starts as someone you've never heard of. Every piece of music was at sometimes new music. It wasn't always classic. And so, it's important to let the world know who you are and what you're doing. And don't be afraid to take credit for what you've accomplished and to be proud of your work. And I think if you constantly do that in a way that's direct and to the point and humble and appropriate and not over the top, where it gets in the way of people actually understanding and liking the art, then I think you'll be fine. The music or the art can stand up for itself.
Okay, fantastic. Well, listen, one of our friends is on the line, and he's actually out of town, so I'm going to bring him on and How appropriate, because he's a songwriter, producer, a 2-time Grammy Award winner, Carvin Haggins.
Hey, how's it going? How's everything going?
Hey, everything is going great. I'm here with Bernie Resnick.
Hello, Carvin. How's life?
Oh, hey, what's up, Bernie? Hey, Bernie, I got to see you some information about Bria's release party on the 13th. But yeah, hello, and hello.
All right, you're talking about Bria Marie, right? She's had a release party coming up?
I will be there. Send me the stuff, and I will be there. But Carvin, why don't you tell the world when and where this is happening?
This is actually happening on January 13th, 14th, and 15th in Orlando, Florida. We're going to do a release party for Bria Marie for her new album, 432. So that's it.
Well, I will be down in that part of the world that time, so I will definitely be there live and in color. I'm looking forward to hearing her and seeing her perform.
Yeah, fantastic. I won't be there, but I wish I could be there. But I think this is a good way to start because Bria Marie is an artist that you have spent cultivating and developing and producing. And so could you tell our listeners what are you working on with her right now?
Right now we are just in the process of building a career. So we've been creating an album, creating a fan base for her, as well as letting people get to understand who her character is, her personality, her image, and just really fortifying her career, that it won't just be a flash-in-the-pan artist, but she'll be an artist that is memorable forever.
Now, how do you do that? I mean, that's a lot to say, because if I were someone who wrote songs and played the guitar, I would be trying to get a song copyrighted and get a couple of gigs. But you just laid out a whole thing, and there must be a strategy, a methodology. How do you bring all that together?
Well, first and foremost, it requires a full team working full hours of the night getting it done. But just finding a common cause, right? So with Bria, one of her major causes is anti-bullying, because she was bullied when she was younger. So that cause is a part of her career. And instead of selling people on the idea of the artist and the idea of the music, we let them know that this is the cause that she stands for, and she fights for the people, and she's an artist for the people. So with that type of mentality and understanding, then, when you champion for the people, you become the people's champ. And that's what we're doing. We're letting her go out and champion for the people, because that's what she's about.
Now, you're known in the industry as a hit maker, and a lot of our listeners may not have heard of you, but they've heard of the people that you've discovered, that you've written music for, and that you've produced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's start with Musiq Soulchild.
Who, by the way, was nominated for a Grammy this morning. So I don't know if you were involved in that record, Carvin, but congratulations once again for launching that artist who's still making hits.
Yeah, that's great to know. Wow, that's really great to know.
Yeah. So you're now going through this process with Bria Marie that you went through with Musiq Soulchild. And so can you tell our listeners a little bit about, how you did that with Musiq Soulchild? What were the key parts that you had to deal with?
Well, it first of all, it started with just having a willing participant who is willing to put everything that he is aside and understand that what we're doing is for the people. And once we got that all established, then we went into creating songs that the world can relate to, more or less taking the blueprint from there's a blueprint that's been laid out from Motown, but for us it was Philly International. So we took the blueprint of what Philly International did and just put a younger face on it, a younger style of music, musicality, and from that point is the birth of the artist. We gave them a conversation, people to talk to, and have that conversation, and that's what we're doing with Bria Marie.
Okay, fantastic. Now, some of the notable artists that you have worked with and collaborated with include Will Smith, Jill Scott, Justin Timberlake, Mary J. Blige, Chris Brown. You have also worked with DJ Jazzy Jeff, and you've certainly done things with some legendary artists as well. as kind of created your own brand, if you will, in the new artists that are coming out kind of under your tutelage. What is it that you look for in an artist? Because it's more than just the talent. I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, but what do you look for in an artist?
Well, it's definitely beyond talent. What I found in my years of being creative, you have the person that's super talented is normally the laziest person. So it's hard to get them in the studio. It's hard to get them to work because it comes so easy. But that person who has a nice amount of talent but doesn't realize it, they are more determined than anything to be the best. So I look for determination because I believe determination beats talent any day. So it's like the tortoise in the hare. It doesn't matter if you got speed. If you're cocky with it and you don't know how to manage it, you'll always lose. So I look for the tortoise in every situation, and they always seem to turn out to be the winner every time.
That's funny you mentioned that. You know, Carvin, I represent a guy from West Philly who is a successful manager named Troy Carter. And about 9 years ago, Troy came to me with a new artist that he was thinking about managing and taking on, who was relatively unknown at the time. And she was a good songwriter, a decent dancer, interesting looking, good singer. She wasn't particularly A+ in any of these categories, but she could do all of them. And more importantly than all that, like you just mentioned, she was the tortoise. She was tireless at promoting and practicing and rehearsing and doing whatever it took to make herself better every day and to gain a new fan every day. That artist was Lady Gaga.
Wow.
And we saw from the beginning the determination and the unrelenting amount of practice she was willing to put in to get to the top. I mean, she did the Academy Awards tribute to Julie Andrews last year, and she took vocal lessons.
Right.
She doesn't need to, but she took vocal lessons for 3 months in order to sing that 3-minute performance. You know, she's phenomenal in the amount of work that she puts in. And that, you're right, that's the kind of artist that everybody's looking for, and you don't find those every day.
And let me interrupt because I have a question for you now, Carvin, because as a songwriter, as a producer, and all that, you're kind of a perfectionist, and I can imagine you're putting some pretty long hours in yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I still don't sleep. I'm in D.C. now. I'm on the Hill taking care of some stuff, and as soon as I leave here, I'm driving back to Philly, back to the studio to do it again. Because, you know, it's not just the talent, there's a passion, and I was one of those determined people. I wasn't an A+ at anything, you know. It was just the determination, and even my partner Ivan, same thing. We weren't the top list at Atlanta Jazz. We were just determined to work hard, and in that determination, we created what we created. So I think it's in my system. I can't stop now.
Now, you know, I could really relate to this because, you know, I'm a councilman, and so I have no skills or abilities whatsoever as a councilman. I happen to be elected. But people kind of confuse me with some of the super talented and really capable people that I work with, and we're all doing PHL Live. And so some of the artists will come to me and say, "Can you help me in my career?" And I'll say, "Well, no, I can't because I'm not in this field." But after a while, you know, if they keep coming to me, I'll say, okay, well, listen, what I could do is I could introduce you to someone who could help you, but here's what I'd like to see you do. And I will say that is a big litmus test for me, because I can't introduce someone to someone like a Carvin Haggins or a Bernie Resnick if I don't know they're willing to work hard. In other words, if I say jump and you don't jump, I'm not going to introduce you, because then I've introduced someone unvetted to somebody whose time is super valuable.
I can speak for myself, guys. I can say that stars are not born. Stars are rehearsed. There's very few people that come out of the womb ready to sing a number one song. Most of them put about 10,000 hours worth of rehearsal into their career before you know who they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me also tell our listeners that I know, and I don't know how much I could speak about this, but I know that you were up in some closed-door meetings about the Grammy Awards. Is there anything you could tell us about that, or is that still secret stuff?
Yeah, that's all secret stuff, I think. Yeah, I don't. we're not free to talk about behind the wall Grammy information.
Okay, but the important thing is you were in that secret meeting. So, folks, I'm just letting you know that Carvin Haggins, he's in there. So he can't even tell us what he's doing, but we'll see it, right? We're going to see what's happening.
Yeah.
What's up ahead? What should we keep our eyes out? When we're talking about the things that Carvin Haggins up to.
Well, honestly, what we're doing, what's ahead is we're just trying to create great music. We're trying to change the outlook of urban music from what it is now to going back to what it used to be, when it had great integrity. There was a great storyline. There was a great top line. There was great musicianship, and it was music that you could pretty much stamp a part of your life in. It was like the bookmarkers to your life, the way Gamble and Huff made music, and Motown made music, and Babyface and L.A. Reid, the way they made music, and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So the goal of this company is to take it back to that original state of the greatness of creation of music.
And that's really one of your passions and one of your motivating points, the meaning of music and how uplifting and important music is. And that's been something you've been working on for a while.
Yeah. Well, it's because when I think about it, music saved my life,
Yes.
So, and it just wasn't about beats. It was the storylines. It was subject matter that actually helped me navigate through life. So my goal is how can we recreate that and bring it back? And of course, there's always a part of music that was a little outlandish. And, there's room for that, but I don't think there's room for it on the radio. And I think that, I just think that there should be an integrity standard to the music that's given to the world,
Yes, fantastic. Well, we are on our final seconds of this show, and let me just ask Carvin and Bernie, is there anything that you'd like to let our listeners know before we close out today?
Speaking for myself, as Bernie speaking, I would say be on the lookout for the new album for a group called Time for Three. They're three classically trained musicians from the Curtis Institute of Music who have driven up their own lane and carved out their own niche, where they combine their classical loves of Bach and Brahms and Beethoven with their own personal compositions and music made famous by others. So you might hear them do Igor Stravinsky, Katy Perry, and their own stuff, all mixed up into one kind of thing. So check out Time for Three, tf3.com, when you have a minute.
Okay. Carvin?
All right. And for me, just go to the website, Ethical Music Entertainment, Ethical Music ENT, and look up all of the artists that we have there right now. Bria Marie is what we're working on, and you've seen her posters throughout the city on every train in the city, and her music is coming right after. So just be on the lookout for that. And then also, we're in D.C. making some really big deals. So be on the lookout for what may happen to the sound of urban radio real soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you so very much. And everyone, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to In the Know with David O. on 860 AM WWDB. Tune in again next Tuesday at 2 p.m. for more informative, substantive, intelligent talk radio with Philadelphia Councilman David O.